Chances are, if you've so much as played, looked at, or heard about S.T.A.L.K.E.R, you may have heard of this music group as well. Interestingly enough, there is no English resource on them, only the Ukrainian S.T.A.L.K.E.R wiki has an entry, and detailed it is. But after reading through the page, I expected there to be much more, but there really wasn't. At least a quarter to a third of it is band members leaving to personal reasons, complications, etc. Firelake started out in the late 90s and worked on a few various things, eventually releasing an album in 2005 called The Temptation Journey. After this, they began to record the soundtrack to S.T.A.L.K.E.R Shadow of Chernobyl in 2006, of course, along with Muzi. The wiki says that Firelake managed to put together 3 compositions, those being Dirge for the Planet, Fighting Unknown, and Against the Ionized Odds, respectively. The band's soundtrack is considered one of the best in the history of video games. They've had a few big breaks, but mostly, this group remains a cult classic, much like the games they assisted with. Since the wiki was a little lackluster, I decided to take a closer look. After inspecting it a little more, I found some archived web pages at the bottom with the help of the Wayback Machine, and came onto this. There's 2 versions of the site, one English and one Russian, with different sections. Thankfully, there's a more complete version of the history on their website. It really does look like a time capsule. But anyway, the band first got together in spring 1997 when 3 first-year students of Kiev Taras Shevchenko University realized during the class that listening to heavy music and desire to actually play it was their common interest. One of them happened to have an associate bare of his stentorian growling skills, willing to vocalize his talent within a heavy band like ours. This is decided on the first line of the band. In 1997, we all tried our hands to put it better our strings for the first time. We were all keen on turning out something special and interesting, having all been exposed to massive influence of Swedish wave, i.e. At the Gates, In Flames, Dark Tranquility. We chose to stay in the same line. It's worth mentioning that we were short of the instruments, 2 semi-acoustic guitars, or at least the way we called them. The same was with sound processors or distortion pedals, so we made use of unique capacity of the speakers, playing at major over peaks, which was a feeble resemblance of real distortion. Our team was another problem we were to face. 3 of us could play guitar, 1 was limited to vocals only. We had neither a bassist nor a drummer. One day, during this wonderful high-tech rehearsal, the guitarist's team was inflicted major damage. Andre and Alexei, rhythm, fell over with each other over some trifle, and Andre made up his mind to quit guitars and give drums a try. He was hopeless for the first time, but he seemed to have liked the kit. From that moment, we went to play in the following roles: Roman, vocals; Oleg, lead guitar; Alexei, rhythm guitar; and Andre, drums. We were playing every now and then, and our skills in music, strangely enough, were improving and expanding. In February 1998, Roman quit the band, and we were left without a vocalist. Early in spring of 1998, Firelake took their first performance on Kiev stage, a mini-gig of 5 rough songs played on 2 guitars and drums, in local metal bar Grave. Vocals were performed by renowned Kiev metal lover Alexei Bess. Then, we tried to keep on rehearsing in Grave, but due to a certain discord with Bess and soon closed down at the very Grave, we started to seek another studio and vocalist. Roman, the former Growlman, introduced us to Dmitry, an acquaintance of his, also known in the Kiev scene as Lenin. Lenin helped us out with bass guitarist Roman to complete the band formation. Vehement rehearsals went on, compositions got polished bit by bit, and the overall style shaped up into melodic death metal with a wicked mix of Swedish Slav tunes. In half a year, namely in November 1998, our second concert took place in Kiev, this time in Korolyov House of Culture, where we played together with Disclaimer, our university buddies. In winter of 1999, there came another discord, this time with Lenin, resulting in his quitting the band and bass guitar Roman taking up vocals. More rehearsals and another gig followed up. In March of 1999, at Volan's Hut event teamed up Impact, Disclaimer, Camera Obscura, Tedium, Firelake, and Unerase. That session we see as probably the first mature band's performance with the full-fledged La Sainte Lutte program with keyboards and female vocals added. Though the first try is not always lucky, people say, that gig inspired us like never before. It was on the 23rd of April when we played together with Kiev-based Unerased and Blast from Kharkiv within the framework of the 5th The Great Commandment session in Kiev Russ Hall. That very performance must have been the top successful for us at the moment. Was it by fluke or by God? We had a splendid sound, this awfully important thing for a musician, you know. Straight after the gig, an interview for Ukrainian Meloda newspaper followed up, along with an hour of chat on Radio Rock's Ukraine Live. Then it turned upside down and problems started. The first trouble was loss of our own rehearsal studio and lack of systematic rehearsals. Hard to fancy anything worse for a band, as a result. We also faced disagreement and strife within the band itself. Whatever hard the tries not to lose the attained level were, that could barely be evaded. Despite the loss in class, we still went on rehearsing at studios we managed to find now and then. On 26 November 1999, the ninth The Great Commandment session featured Firelake, Reflection, Egoism, and Unerase. As it is widely known, no pains, no gains. That's why we gained only further aggravated internal problems and discord out of that performance. A question to repeatedly pop up later on arose, to be or not to be, for the band. During the following half a year, indifference and silence reigned. But thereafter, the old yen for drum and distortion rave prevailed and made us get our hands on instruments again. In spring of 2000, we had several productive rehearsals, but these proved too little to prepare us for the gig we had been offered to play at. This time, it went all through the summer of 2000. From September on, Firelake went to rehearse in Arpin together with local Utopia. In fact, this upsurge turned out rather brief, and closer to winter these trips were off. So this was through such ups and downs that we created our music. Much has changed for us now. First off, it's the vision and stance on what we do. Sober providence and ability to weigh up the situation objectively has ousted childish recklessness. What has been unchanged through this time is our firm belief of our potential. We see it as Firelake rebirth and reckon listeners will see it the same as we do. A full demo album is now in progress. And that's where this page ends. As we go over to releases, it simply says, at the moment, we are recording our debut album. We pin our hopes on you getting your hands on it this spring. The photo page was quite disappointing aside from more numbers and dates. Some photos had some bites on them, which made me foolishly hope that something was there, but alas, there was not. Band was much the same, but it did provide more names. Friends, this is just linking them, well, friends. I came into this expecting a dead wiki, or nothing at all, so to have this much is truly an unforeseen boon. And at the bottom, naturally, it says 2002. A 22-year-old website. Isn't that insane? And to wonder what other iterations of this website there came to be. But this is the only one we get to see right now. The sparse information thus far should be enough to convince you that these guys are mostly unheard of. Now, what do others on the internet say or think about Firelake? One of the top posts I see come up is, will Firelake Band return to STALKER 2? With the reply being, it'd be cool to have another track, or have their old one return. Encyclopedia Metallum says they're still together, but last release was 2012. For all intents and purposes, it looks like Firelake is stagnant, especially for a decade plus. With all the turnover, it does make me wonder why. And if we take a further look, there are lots of these posts, so I'm not the only one who's curious about them. There's even memes. If you care to take a look, there are previous versions of their songs, and some sound totally different than the end product, with one in mind. The community obviously cares about and misses this band, much like Muzi himself. What do you think? Do you think either of them will return for STALKER 2? Maybe after a decade gone. Firelake's been working on some killer tunes. If there's any points I missed, glazed over, or neglected entirely, please, let me know.